Scientists found an ancient structure inside a mountain. Something moved beneath their feet. Imagine a survey team standing on a rocky plateau beneath a sheer cliff face. The air is still. Instruments hum softly, their screens glowing against the stone. The expectation is simple: solid basalt, uninterrupted, inert. A mountain does not move. Then the readouts begin to disagree with that assumption. Irregular echoes appear where density should be uniform. Shapes emerge on the displays, not clear voids, not defined chambers, but absences that do not belong. The team recalibrates. Measurements are taken again. The same anomalies return. And then it happens. Not a tremor, not the rolling violence of an earthquake. Just a brief, unsettling shift beneath their boots, as if the ground adjusted itself. A sensation felt by more than one person at nearly the same moment. Enough to make conversation stop. Enough for one of the technicians to instinctively lift a foot, as if checking whether the rock had cracked beneath them. The instruments spike. For a second, every display reacts at once. No one speaks. What they are standing on is one of the most extraordinary monuments ever created by human hands. The Kailasa Temple at Ellora. Catalogued as Cave 16 within the Ellora complex, Kailasa is not a structure assembled from blocks. It is a mountain transformed, an entire temple complex carved downward from a single mass of rock. Courtyards, pillars, sanctuaries, sculpted narratives, all released from stone by removal, not construction. From a distance, the scale is deceptive. Only when a person stands at its edge does the magnitude become clear. The volume of stone removed is staggering, often described in estimates reaching hundreds of thousands of tons. These numbers are approximations, meant less as precise calculations and more as a way to communicate disbelief. The accepted historical framework places its creation in the 8th century, under the patronage of the Rashtrakuta dynasty, commonly attributed to King Krishna I. According to consensus archaeology, generations of craftsmen worked methodically, carving from the top down, planning every cut in advance. A single mistake could not be repaired. This method alone defies modern intuition. Builders did not begin with a foundation and raise walls. They began with a roof that did not yet exist, carving toward a floor that could not be seen. Pillars were not placed. They were left behind. Islands of stone spared amid deliberate absence. The mountain itself became the blueprint. Yet standing there, above those carved voids, the survey team was not thinking about 8th century logistics. They were focused on what their instruments were suggesting now. The anomalies persisted. Ground-penetrating radar returned reflections inconsistent with solid basalt. Seismic readings hinted at discontinuities below the carved levels. Not organized spaces, but not random noise either. Something within the mountain was different from what surface observations suggested. And beneath their feet, the sensation lingered. Several members later described it the same way. Not motion exactly, but adjustment. A subtle, directional shift, felt more in the body than heard or seen. Enough to register. Enough to be remembered. At sites like this, perception matters. Archaeologists and engineers are trained to distrust first impressions, especially in environments loaded with expectation. Yet this was not a solitary experience. It coincided with instrument response. It happened while attention was fixed on the same data. Only later would explanations begin to surface. Kailasa exists within basalt, a volcanic rock known for fractures, joints, and hidden weaknesses. Over centuries, groundwater can exploit these planes, creating pockets of altered density. Thermal expansion and contraction, especially in exposed cliff faces, can produce micro-movements too small to register as seismic events but large enough to be felt by a human body standing still. Instrumentation itself introduces complexity. Radar pulses can reflect unpredictably off-layered stone. Seismic waves can scatter, overlap, or amplify artifacts depending on placement and ambient vibration. Even the act of surveying can introduce subtle stresses. All of these explanations are plausible. None of them, however, fully account for why multiple systems reacted at the same moment the sensation occurred. The modern story of Ellora is layered with similar tensions between certainty and doubt. When European visitors documented the site during the colonial period, their accounts brought global attention, but also imposed external interpretations. Later efforts by the Archaeological Survey of India and scholars such as James Burgess and Ghulam Yazdani produced systematic records, drawings, and conservation plans that reframed the monument within a more rigorous academic context. Yet documentation has never been neutral. Graffiti, removal of artifacts, and selective recording altered the site physically and narratively. What survives today is both ancient creation and modern intervention. This makes any investigation beneath Kailasa especially sensitive. Non-invasive technologies like GPR, seismic surveys, LiDAR, and photogrammetry are favored precisely because the temple cannot be disturbed without risk. Drilling into a monolithic structure carved from living rock risks irreversible damage. Ethical archaeology demands restraint. Still, the question remains. If the mountain is entirely inert, why does it sometimes behave as if it is not? Some researchers suggest the possibility of undocumented cavities beneath or adjacent to the carved levels, remnants of natural formations never intended to be accessed. Others point to the cumulative effect of carved voids altering stress distribution within the rock mass. A smaller group speculates about intentional substructures, sealed or abandoned during construction. More speculative voices go further, proposing lost techniques or purposes not preserved in historical records. These ideas remain unverified, existing at the edge of serious discourse, compelling, but unsupported. What matters is not which explanation is most dramatic, but which can be tested. To resolve the anomalies detected beneath Kailasa would require repeated surveys, cross-checked by independent teams, using different instruments under controlled conditions. Data would need to be published, scrutinized, challenged, and replicated. And even then, conclusions might remain provisional. Until that happens, what exists is a moment, a team standing on ancient stone, instruments reacting in unison, and a brief sensation beneath their feet. Enough to stop conversation, enough to remind everyone present that a mountain carved into a temple is still, fundamentally, a mountain. Kailasa endures as a testament to human intention imposed upon geology. Whether the anomalies beneath it prove to be voids, fractures, or something not yet understood, the monument continues to resist full explanation. It does not reveal everything at once, and perhaps it was never meant to. If you want to follow further investigations into sites like this where archaeology, geology, and unanswered questions intersect, subscribe for future updates. Some structures tell their stories freely, others require patience, and some, carved deep inside mountains, remind us that stone remembers more than we expect.